all the power has gone off.
Well, you don't have a problem.
You've stolen 2 ships, and you can only leave at 2 to 3 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Which means, right, the chances of someone knowing what it is that you've
This
done.
is normal.
This
is
normal for who?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's
It's
absolutely,
normal for
believe
who?
me, it's absolutely normal until the point when they started firing at us.
What started firing at you?
Everything. There were everything. There were rifles. There were automatic weapons. And they were fired. And it's all in darkness. You don't know where they're coming from, but you know more or less it's coming from over there.
So we're back, season 2, original pirate material. This time we're face to face. We finished by saying we wanted to speak about Yenbo on our next season, so that feels like the right place to start. Tonz, tell us the story of Yenbo.
Well, the story of Yenbo is where I captured 2 German ships at the same time. And I became the first pirate to capture 2 ships at the same time for 120 years. And that happened shortly after arriving in Saudi Arabia.
So, Tonz, who keeps track of that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Sorry?
So who is keeping track of like how many ships people have stolen?
Well, I found
at
out
one
after
time?
20 years.
who told
Through
you?
Where's the
records.
record?
There's records. You'll come to that.
Okay, all right.
And, anyway, the thing is that we've done this incredible voyage, which is Darren's favourite subject. And we're waiting to get paid. And we're in Jeddah. And the sheikh calls me in and says, I've got a job for you. And that is to go up to Yenbo, which is another town north of Jeddah, and deliver me 2 ships that I've got there. So he didn't tell me the entire story, and I didn't tell him the backstory. Now, the backstory is that the last day of the voyage of the Sperm Beach, we had a problem with the fuel line, and we had to pull into Yenbo. If you remember on the story, we pulled into Yenbo. It was Christmas Day. And there were 2 German ships at anchor in the lagoon. And they waved, and we came alongside them and spent Christmas Day with them. We needed 90 gallons of fuel oil to get us to Jeddah, and they gave it to us. It was a Christmas
2
present.
German ships this was.
2 German ships, yeah.
Okay, I'm following.
So while
were
we're
these
there,
the same 2 German ships you then went and...
That's what I was
Yeah, I'm
thinking
coming
we
to
were
that.
going to.
That's your way of saying
So-
thank you, right?
Yeah.
so I didn't tell the sheikh that I knew about these 2 ships. He said, I've got 2 German ships and they're coming here. I just didn't tell him that I knew everything about these ships, because while we were there on the Christmas Day, my engineer, who loves engines, he went and had a look at the engines. I was on the bridge. Have a look. It's normal. You investigate what's on the ship. So we knew everything we needed to know about these ships. So when the sheikh said, I want you to deliver these ships to me, I never told him that we knew about them, because if I did, he'd probably put the price down. But he's offered us 1,750 quid to deliver these ships, which was the same money that we had already got for delivering the Sperm Beach all the way from Hull to Jeddah in 3 months. He's offering us the same money for a 22-hour job. So grabbed it, but because it's in Yenbo, I needed a passport. I didn't have a passport. I had mariner's papers and ship's papers and the old-fashioned, you remember the post office passports? Had one of them.
I think so, yeah.
And I needed to go out of Jeddah to another town. I needed a proper passport. So I went along to the British Embassy I went in there. It was about 4:30. I said, hello, look, you got to help me. I need a passport immediately because day after tomorrow I'm going to Yenbo doing this job and I'm going to get paid a fortune for a simple job. And they said, well, how can you be here without a passport? I said, well, I came on the ship. And they said, no. You can't get a passport. You can't just walk in here and get a passport. It takes 10, 15 days to get a passport. Come back tomorrow, we'll fill out the form, and then we'll see what we can do. I said, no, I can't do that. He said, you have to, because you can't be here without a passport. This is a dangerous place. Do you realise that? I said, well, give me a passport. and so he said, no, come back tomorrow. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. I said, what I'm going to need is a blanket, a bottle of water, a cushion, and I'm going to sleep here. And there was a chaise lounge. Mm-hmm. I'm going to sleep here for the next 10 days till I get a passport. Oh, you can't do that. I said, I can, because you've just told me that it's very dangerous out there without a passport. So I'm not going to go out. I'm not going to go out the door until I've got one. 25 minutes. Wow. This is the passport.
I see it.
Yeah. And you'll see from the date of it, it's issued in Jeddah. And the date, I think, was the 6th of January.
Okay, so 25 minutes later, you got your
25
passport.
minutes later, I've got a passport. And so that's a backstory. So the day after, off we go with the Sheikh's bodyguards.
Quick question, sorry. So when the Sheikh said to you, I need you to deliver me these 2 ships, did you know the underlying meaning of the word deliver there? You knew it wasn't pick up something that people are waiting? You didn't? Okay.
I just thought it's a delivery job.
Yes, they're waiting for us.
So I can do that. It's not a problem. I'm used to doing it. I've done it everywhere. I even know the ships. I didn't tell the Sheikh I knew the ships because he'd put the price down. And so 2 days later, we're in the car with the Sheikh's people, and off we go. And as we're on the voyage to Yenbo, which is just past Medina, on the Medina road, and there was a checkpoint, and we could see all this money changing hands. And then there was a second checkpoint, and more money was changing hands. So we started to think, hold on a minute, this isn't exactly what we were expecting. I've got my passport. There you go. So why do we need all this money? And then, before we get to Yenbo, the driver pulls off the road into the desert along the coast. And I'm saying, why are we in the desert? And then we stop, and it's, shh, be quiet. And slowly through the desert to the ridge overlooking the Yenbo Lagoon. And at that point, we realise that there's something's not right.
You said we, this is you and the engineer?
And my engineer, yeah. We understand there's something not right. But we're with 3 enormous guys, Arab guys, who are the Sheikh's number 1, 2, 3 bodyguards. And if we were to say, no, we're not going to do this, turn around, let's go back, it was going to be big problems. So while we're there, a signal goes out, and then we'll move forward again quietly in the night, middle of the night. And one of the bodyguards goes over the ridge, down, and there's a little guard house. And he's gone there, and boom, on the head, the guard, and tidy him up, so the guard. And then at that point, we realised this is really heavy stuff we're in. It's not a delivery job. It's something much bigger. Mm-hmm. But
you have a sense of what that was at that point?
All we're interested in doing is delivering these jobs, these boats, and getting paid. And it's big money. I mean, it's 1977, 1,750 quid in 1977, buy you half a house. Mm-hmm. So, and for a day's job, so we've got to do this. So we've now got these 3 guys, and they've got this rowing boat. We get in the rowing boat, and the 2 ships are anchored in the lagoon. On the other side of the lagoon is the town of Yenbo. So we row a boat out to the ship, and we're told by there's only 2 of the guys could speak a little English, and he said there's 3 guards on the ships, and we're going to need to disarm them. And so you're sitting there in the dark looking at each other, So, well, we climb on the ship. The 3 guards are rounded up. They're thrown over the side and start swimming to the shore.
Just quickly, when you say rounded up, talk me through like the process of
Well,
rounding
it
up.
was all so quick. Suddenly words came out, "Oh, come here," and the guards just arrived, and they're only little. And they were rounded up, put on the bow.
Did you have any weapons on you?
No weapons. We're going to do a delivery job.
So why did they do what you said?
Well, we didn't say it. The bodyguards of the sheik
Okay.
did the rounding up.
Did they have weapons? The bodyguards of the Sheik?
Yeah. They had all kinds of weapons. Just like,
Rambo
weapons
style.
everywhere. And so the 3 guards are there on the bow. And they said, right, we're going to throw them over the side. And so I said, hold on a minute. I said, because we've got to pull the anchor up, because both ships were tied together side by side. Mm-hmm. And one of the ship had an anchor. We managed to get the anchor up. And at which point, the 3 guards were thrown over the side, and they with their weapons, and they started swimming towards the shore. And the 3 bodyguards of the sheik got back in the rowing boat and quickly, and they had to move quickly, rowed to the shore to get back in the car and gone, which would leave just the 2 of us on the ship. So ran straight to the engine room, and I ran to the bridge. All I had was a bag with my nav gear and a rolled up chart. And as I turned the corner at the back of the ship to go up the ladder to the bridge, there was another guard number 4, that just appeared. And he appeared right in front of me, and he had a rifle that was, was holding like that, so he couldn't shoot me. We were close, we were face to face. So I pointed the tube of chart, rolled up chart at him, and I said, look, over there. And he looked at the 3 guards swimming towards the shore, and I've asked myself this question how many times, but he simply jumped over the side. I was unarmed except for a chart.
Did you put on, were you like, right, I've got to put on my intimidating voice? Were you like, I've got to be confident, or was it just flash the moment?
No, something just flashed to me, and I said to him, look, join the others, jump over, get off. And he did, and I was quite surprised. And I ran up to the bridge, and I knew that we've got to get going quickly. Now, Yenbo at the time was the most difficult place to get into, because coming from the sea, you had an S bend to the lagoon through coral, sharp coral rocks. It's very dangerous. And I had been in and I had been out, so I've got that. When I do anything, I photograph in my mind that pull, how to get in, how to get out. And so luckily the both ships were pointed in the right direction. So once we got the engine started, the engine was started, great, let's go. Immediately there was all kinds of hell let loose, the people shouting here, shouting there, and firing guns, and next minute all the lights of Yenbo went off. Total darkness. There was nothing. All the navigation lights, everything went off. So we were in total darkness. Now, to get in and out of Yenbo with a boat like the Sperm Beach is not a really big problem, as long as you understand you've got to go slow. But when you've got 2 ships together side by side, you don't have a lot of room to manoeuvre.
So
because you're a lot wider.
So who's steering the ships?
I'm steering the ship.
But you're steering both ships.
2 ships.
They're together, side by side. They're tied together. So you only need one ship with an engine to literally drag the other one with you.
So are they like side by side, or is it one?
Side by side. Side by side.
That can't be a common thing. Like I know there's like the tugboats, but that's
They-
like
they
side by
had-
side.
They were side by side when we first saw them the day Christmas Day, and they were side by side because it was the easiest way to be.
Yeah.
Because you've got a crew on one and a crew on another, and they're backwards and forwards all the time, and then you only need one anchor because then you've got that one's anchored, the other one's tied to the ship that's anchored, so it's not going anywhere.
No, I get that, but it's like if you're. Look, I've never steered a ship, right? So I'm just surmising, right? But if I've got 2 ships, and let's just say, so were you on the left-hand side?
Yeah,
You were on
left-hand side.
Okay, so that's my question. Why is it better to be on the left-hand side as opposed to the right-hand side when you're steering the ship?
Well, I wouldn't say it'd be better, but in this particular case, it was, because the first bend of the it's like an S to get out,
and the first
was
bend-
left.
Oh, I see.
So we're going to go left. And we started moving, and we got...
Sorry, I've still got questions about the ship as someone that's never steered one ship, let alone 2. If you put the brakes on ship 1, is the ship 2 essentially in like what I'd call like neutral? So it's just going along with ship 1.
Because it's tied
But
together.
it's not like you haven't got the motor on ship 2 as
No,
well.
you've got one engine.
One engine that's just, and the other one's kind of going. But then that means you probably need to kick a bit more power into your turns, the engine.
You have to go real dead slow anyway to get out of there. So you're not worried about
Got it,
power.
yeah.
It's really, really slow. We're talking
like,
it took about 2, maximum 3 miles an hour.
which is the speed you want to be when you're escaping and hell's going loose around.
But you can't go any faster because you've got rocks and corals to the right and to the left.
Yeah.
And it's an S bend that you've got to go through to get out to sea.
But how do you stay calm in a situation like that? All the power has gone off.
Well, you don't have a problem.
You've stolen 2 ships, and you can only leave at 2 to 3 miles an hour.
Yeah,
which
that's
means-
what I'm thinking.
Which means, right, the chances of someone knowing what it is that you've
This
done.
is normal. This is
normal for who?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's
Normal
absolutely.
for
Believe
who?
me, it's absolutely normal until the point when they started firing at us.
What started firing at you?
Everything. There were everything. There were rifles. There were automatic weapons. There were fire. And it's all in darkness. You don't know where they're coming from, but you know more or less it's coming from over there. And you're moving at 2 or 3 miles an hour, very, very slowly, like walking pace. And even though it's only walking pace, every minute that goes by puts you 50, 60 yards further into the bend. And all of a sudden, they fired a cannon. No one expected a cannon.
Oh, but you expected the other gunfire.
We didn't expect the other gunfire, but it wasn't a surprise because the guards that we'd thrown off had got guns.
Right, okay.
So we knew that when they get to the beach eventually, and the guy who had been tied up there is released, they've got guns, they're going to fire them, right?
Yeah.
But we're in a steel ship, so it's not really going to be a big problem. They're not going to hit us. They'll hit the ship, but they won't hit us. Until they fired the cannon, which kind of changed things. And ran up to me and he said, "That was a cannon. That was a..." I don't think we're allowed to swear on the podcast, but that was an effing cannon. And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Look, I don't know if these Germans drink tea, but go down into the galley and see if you can find some tea and make us a nice cup of tea." And I said that to calm him down because he was terrified.
And you weren't so terrified with the...
I was concentrating on getting to the first bend, and I'm halfway there. And then at the same time, I'm realizing that all the shots they're firing were at where we were, behind us. They're not firing anymore at us. We've now moved on. Okay, it's only 200 yards. But all the aim they were firing at was behind us. And so they weren't even firing at us. It was pitch black. They're firing where they thought we were. But now I've got to the first left-hander of the S, and it's really difficult, and I'm worried. I'm not worried about the cannons. I'm not worried about the guns. I'm worried about hitting the reef, because that is a problem. You're not going to get off of that. So,
why is that? Because it's a steel boat and it'll just get stuck in the rock?
If you hit a coral reef, what happens is the coral crushes, right? It's not like a rock that's solid. It crushes and it creates a kind of a sticky mud that the boat actually sticks to. It's very difficult to get off. If you ran aground onto a beach or onto a rock, you can slide off. But coral's different because it's alive. It's a living thing. Anyway, I decided to call out to the ships in the bay outside, and I said, anyone have a radar on? And immediately I got this lovely pirate guy come back, and he said, I've got you on radar. You're doing fine. You're in the middle. And he said, but you're going to have to come left now. And he guided me left through the first S, part of the S. Then right, and he said, come right. You're out. So I went straight. Thank you very much, mate. And once we were at sea, we managed to start the engine of the other ship, so we could go faster and make it in about 17 hours all the way down to Jeddah. We got to Jeddah, and I radioed the Sheikh. I said, we're here with your two ships. And he was so happy, this guy. Bring him in the harbour, bring him in. I said, no, I'm not bringing him in. I said, because this wasn't an ordinary delivery, was it? On the radio. So everyone could hear this conversation. So I said, we're going to need to renegotiate the price. What do you mean? I said, we're going to need to double it to 3,500.
So a house now. Before it was half a house, now it's a house you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3,500. And it didn't even argue. He said, yeah, fine, that's fine. Bring the ships in. I said, no. I said, first of all, you send a launch out with this briefcase with the money in it. And then I'll bring the ships in. Well, it wasn't even an hour. It was about 40 minutes later. This launch arrives with a guy with a brand new briefcase. And the inside was 3,500 quid. And we took the ships in, and we, like normal pirates do, it's one share, everybody's equal. 1,750 for me, 1,750 for job done. When you're a pirate, you can't tell people you're a pirate. One, they wouldn't believe you, and if they did, then they're going to think negatively. You know, you go to, like my father would invite me to the golf club, and there's magistrates and doctors and solicitors, all this kind of people there. And they come to me and they say, I understand your father tells me you're a ship's captain. What kind of ship? You know, they ask you all the questions. You never mention the fact that you're a pirate. You just try and bypass the questions. And your life is like that. It's schizophrenic. You're living two lives, really. And it was 20 years later when I started to decide that, you know, shit, I'm a pirate. So why do I have to be like this? You know, I don't care if somebody says they don't like pirates. That's up to them. And I investigated, and it was the first time that someone had captured two ships in 120 years. And I thought, well, I'm kind of proud of that. And that then made me a little enthusiastic, you know, like I'm proud of who I am, so, you know, let's go for it. And I didn't know what I'd done wrong. I had no idea. The next minute, I'm told, right, tomorrow morning, you're going to be transferred to Hull.